Tips to get huge in January. I have done this myself. I've done all of these myself to some degree, and they worked out very, very well for me. I used to be overweight when I was about 19. Then I had an okay physique. It was better than average, to be fair, for many years. And then I really got jacked a few years ago, and I've kind of maintained it and gradually gotten leaner and leaner since. But yeah, some of these tips are things that most of you guys aren't doing for one reason or another. You might want to start doing them in 2025. And so yeah, let's dive into them. One of the biggest ones is always going to be, it starts with training, and then recovery is just as important. You need both, otherwise the muscle doesn't grow. Obviously you need the training stimulus, but what people always forget is the recovery is just as important. If all you're doing is breaking the muscle down in the gym and it never really truly builds back up bigger and better and further beyond what it was originally, then you don't get any progress. You just start spinning your wheels. So recovery is just as important. But let's start with training. Training intensity is what forces the body to adapt. It's not how many sets you do. You can do 6 sets of 50 if you want. If it's not breaking the muscles down really badly, the body isn't getting enough of a stimulus. It's about, you've got to have the intensity there. That's the minimum requirement for the training stimulus to be good enough. What does this mean? It means training close to failure at least a decent amount of the time. But it's not just that. If you train your shoulders doing some overhead press, and every time you go into the gym you do the same thing, you do, 4 sets of 10 to failure every single time, you'll probably make some gains for a while, don't get me wrong. Eventually your body will adapt to that, even though the intensity per set is there. At some point you're going to want to do different exercises. You're going to want to hit the shoulders from a different angle. You're going to want to do some drop sets. You want to vary the rep scheme. So one week you do 12s, then you do 10s, then you do 8s, then you do 6s. And it stops the body from adapting properly. This is also known as periodization. And that's a huge thing that people overlook. And not just periodization, but things like drop sets, tri-sets, just doing random stuff occasionally that just throws your body off. It's extremely good at adapting to anything, more or less anything you throw at it. Anything that doesn't kill you, your body will adapt, basically. It's a survival machine, so you want to keep it off. Keep it guessing, so to speak. Nice sunny day today, crazy. But so that's a big one for training intensity. But there's different types of training intensity. You want to use all of them, not just one. What else is there? Cortisol. I did a video recently on cortisol. Cortisol is a huge deal, especially in today's world. People are working longer hours for less real money. People are stressed out. People have kids. Guys are stressed because they don't know, younger guys don't know what they want to do in the future. And there's a lot of people that are, in my opinion, overreacting to a lot of stuff that they can't control. Things like politics, things like various wars and various things around the world that you have zero control over. People get very stressed out about this stuff. When your cortisol levels are high, for whatever reason, it exhibits a catabolic effect on the body. Makes it very, very hard to gain muscle. Makes it harder to sleep and recover. Makes it harder to maintain decent blood flow for nutrients. And it's just a catabolic hormone when it's constantly high. So it's good when you have a little bit in the gym, but when it's always high, it screws you over. Then on top of the stress thing, what you eat massively influences your cortisol. Also, getting enough sunlight's a big one. But things like doing keto, if you want to get huge in 2025, don't do keto. It's a really bad idea. Cortisol levels are going to be really high. You're going to want some carbs, clean carbs, but you're not going to want some carbs. You're going to need some carbs. So things like fruit, potatoes, raw honey, the same old things. You could have sourdough and rice. They're okay. They're the grey area ones to like make up for calories. You can't have 3,000 calories where it's all fruit and potatoes. Your stomach will just explode. But yeah, if you really want to get huge in 2025, yeah, have some rice and some sourdough. I would avoid oats. I would avoid things with loads of gluten, things that mess with your gut health, because that will reduce your testosterone. But we're talking about physique here, so go for some rice and sourdough. That's what I would do if you want to keep your hormones on point. But carbs, having some before bed is important. Not right before bed, but like 2 or 3 hours before bed, you'll probably sleep better. Having plenty of sun reduces cortisol. Plenty of magnesium, especially post-workout, especially before bed. I have scheduled a tweet to go out in a couple of days that said red light therapy and magnesium salts on your balls are probably going to be a game changer for your reproductive health and for cortisol levels and testosterone levels. And where was I going with that? And this is something you could look at, called magnesium salts. But be careful with the heat. So loads of people ask, should I put red light therapy on my balls? You can do. I would just be very, very careful, because the damage you could do could be quite bad. But yeah, it would be a good idea. Magnesium especially, though. Magnesium salts in the shower is a good idea, so you can rub them, everywhere. But yeah, magnesium's important for cortisol control as well. And vitamin D3 in general, whether you get it from the sun or a supplement or whatever. So there's a few things in terms of getting huge. What else is there? Obviously, all things hormone optimization is going to be important. So testosterone, getting your test to over 800, getting your DHT to over 70, which might be even more important, to be honest, for building muscle. But it's you can't really talk about having high DHT if your testosterone is only 300 or 400. The testosterone comes first. The DHT is more powerful, but there's a sequence to this. You got to limit the 5-alpha reductase. You've got to eliminate the 5-alpha reductase inhibitors and push the 5-alpha reductase higher for DHT. This is growth hormone's important, but sleep is the biggest thing for growth hormone. So I keep saying sleep, and people just like log off, but it's so important for building muscle, and it reduces cortisol. It's just anabolic all around. So yeah, I think they're the main points I would add for getting huge. Protein servings, you're going to want 4 or 5 throughout the day. If your goal is to get huge, I would say 4 or 5. Relatively evenly spaced out, although you don't have to be like autistic about this. 4 or 5 is a lot better than 1 or 2, let's put it that way. You don't want a big 8-hour gap where you're not getting any protein whilst you're awake. That's not going to be good. And really, for gaining muscle, protein is king, carbs are second, and fats, you're just getting enough quality fats. People obsess over macros, and I'm like, bro, there is no point talking about getting 25-30% of fats, and your fats are coming from like processed meat sources, so not real food. fried food, just crappy oils and things like that. Those things are all fats. Or you could get 15's too low, 20% fats, and those fats are coming from high quality EPA dense omega-3, egg yolks, grass-fed steak, things like that, avocado maybe. There is a huge difference. Like the 20% fats coming from that is going to be way better than 30% of your fats coming from junk. Like, I'm not sure obsessing over macros is really that useful. The quality of food is going to be way more important. You know, unless you're doing something crazy, like your protein's way too low. Protein, it is important, but... or you're doing like 80% fats or something stupid. But once you're in a reasonable range of macros, obsessing over things like that is more about quality at that point than it is about numbers. Focus on quality. But they would be my tips for getting huge. You can do it. I think you've got to commit to it and look for potential obstacles throughout 2025. Things that are inevitably going to get in the way if you're not prepared for them. So I don't know what your situation is. If you've got a demanding job or an unpredictable job, try and work around it. If you've got friends that like to go on the weekends, you might want to start telling them, you know, I'm very, very busy with, I don't know, work, make up some excuse and just go out with them every other weekend. I don't know, just work around these inevitable things that are going to start popping up. Don't get excited just because it's the start of January coming up and you're excited, because the excitement will wear off, and then you're facing the hard reality of, am I actually following through with the goals or not? And that takes more logic and more planning, not just motivation and excitement. But good luck, you can do it. If you want to learn more about cortisol and how important it is for testosterone, check out this video. Go into a lot more detail there, you'll find it useful.